Who's ready for some hockey? 2022 Development Camp presented by Martin Harris Construction, picking up the pace with the first scrimmage of the week, just minutes away here at City National Arena in Summerlin. So welcome inside Studio 31. I'm Ashley Weiss, hanging out with Brian McCormack this week. Brian, not only is there a scrimmage taking place in a few minutes, but there's another one tomorrow at 10 a.m., one on Saturday at 10:15 a.m., so you might get a little tired of hearing my voice, but I think fans,
I think we're all well rested.
Attendance, exactly, yeah. You haven't heard from me enough lately, so, I think all the fans in attendance here and the ones watching are going to be really impressed by these Golden Knights prospects.
Ashley, it's such a fun week, especially with this being, and Kelly McCrimmon referenced it a bit earlier today in his comments to the press. It's been an unusual summer because it's been a bit of a longer summer for VGK fans, and with that, you get antsy. You're ready for hockey, you're ready for something substantive, and of course it's a big week on the hockey calendar, but for so many teams around the league and for the VGK, it is development camp week, and for that, for the players, it's a bit of an orientation, especially for the brand new draftees who come in, get to know the organization. A bit of an orientation for all of us too. We're getting to know them, and that's why a series of scrimmages like we're going to have this weekend. What better way to get to know these players over an extended format, I suppose. Again, so some brand new faces and some players that you might have seen a few times in the last couple of years.
And for the first time in 3 years, an in-person development camp. I cannot imagine the impact and the difference that face-to-face communication makes, not only for the players, but for the organization as well.
And there's only a couple of players who have actually had an in-person camp. Caden Korzak, when he was drafted. I know Isaiah Seville has done one. Connor Corcoran I believe might have. He was definitely drafted long ago enough to have been in one. But for so many of these players, it's been such a strange COVID world in so many different aspects in the last couple of years. And part of that has been the ability to get on the ice, not just with their new coaching staffs and coaching staff of the future, those who will someday play in Vegas and in Henderson, but also with each other and the bond that builds amongst these players before they go back to their junior teams or wherever it is they're going to go, if not staying in this area. So it is so useful for them to get to know one another. With that, and we're going to talk about all the elements that go into development camp. It's not just on-ice activity. There's a lot more that they're doing. This is a fun week, and it should be a fun week because for these players, it's making new friends and getting a bit of a sense of what their future is going to be, but it's also learning how to be a pro in a very tight window of time to get acclimated.
A very tight schedule. You mentioned everything that they do off the ice as well, from cooking classes to meetings with current VGK players. They teamed up with Catholic Charities of Southern Nevada to feed some of the men and women in the area who need it most yesterday. They team bonded at a baseball game. I look at their schedule, and I know these are young guys, but it exhausts me just to look at everything they're doing, Brian.
And, yesterday they got a chance to take some tours as well. They went and saw T-Mobile Arena. They went to the Dollar Loan Center in Henderson.
You gave them the tour of the Dollar Loan Center.
I did.
King of the Dollar Loan Center, Brian McCormack.
And these poor guys, by the time they made it to Henderson for the DLC, they'd already had a full day. They'd done the charity event. They'd done the T-Mobile Arena tour. And, of course, they were excited and happy to be, again, getting further acclimated to their new organizational home. But also, I think they went to a Las Vegas Aviators game last night. So like you said, it's a full condensed schedule. But the reason why that's important is because for these players who are going to be future Golden Knights, they're going to need to perform on the ice, but they're also going to have to be part of this town. And they get a bit of a lesson in both over the course of these 5 or 6 days.
They do, and it looks like we are getting very close to opening face-off here in the first scrimmage of the week. It's going to be the red team to watch if you want to see some of the newest additions to the Vegas Golden Knights organization from the 2022 draft.
Yeah, these rosters, Ashley, they're a bit of this camp is a bit of a mishmash of, yes, drafted prospects, but also players who have been signed to AHL deals, players who are still draft eligible for a couple more years looking to make an impression, and also free agents that are looking to perhaps win a job in a minor league role over the next year or two. So for Team Red, we're going to see 4 2022 draftees. We're also going to see 7 free agents. There will be 1 2022 draftee in Ben Hemmerling on Team White this afternoon. 6 free agents looking to make an impression on Team White.
All right, and presented by Martin Harris Construction. It looks like we're getting underway. Brian, you're a play-by-play guy, so why don't you get us going?
I might as well give it a shot as the face-off is one back. Connor Corcoran bobbled it, and then it was hacked in by Daniel D'Amato. And, of course, as we go through these scrimmages, we're going to do as much as we can to get you introduced to some of these new faces in the VGK organization. Puck is punched in by Connor Ford, who signed an AHL contract with the Henderson Silver Knights after a PTO trial run last spring. Pass out to the point. A long drive by Daniel D'Amato is gloved and held by goaltender Jesper Wickman.
Yeah, Brian, you talked about how we're going to try to share these stories. You and I had the opportunity to have a long chat with Will Nickel, who's in charge of all of the player development in the Vegas Golden Knights organization. It is incredible the personal interest he takes in each and every one of these kids. He knows everything about their background, so plenty of stuff to share thanks to Will Nickel.
It was a long talk with Will Nickel. It was about an hour. We probably could have gone for another 2 if we didn't have this show coming up. Patrick Gay, the 2022 fifth-round pick, chipped it forward. Now it rolls back into red ice. And going back into his own end, battling in the corner, Jace Weir. Jace Weir, another one of the draft-eligible players invited to camp this week. Puck was spun towards the net but didn't get through. That was off the stick of Marcus Kelly. Now it rolls back deep into Team White territory. Fired out to the neutral zone. That was a pass that was intended for Carter Such, but bounced off his stick. Now Patrick Gay in the neutral zone gives up the left-hand side, so it can work deep into the offensive zone. And the corner behind the net now coming out of traffic is Artur Cholach. Talk about players that Will Nickel really had high praise for this morning and what he's seen this week, Ashley. Artur Cholach, the Ukrainian native, really made large leaps this season.
He did not only that, but he was so proud. That's the exact word he used. He said, he just makes me proud. Everything that's happened with the war between Russia and Ukraine, he's had to stay here this offseason. He hasn't had an opportunity to go back home. He praised the way the Barrie Colts have taken him in, the way his Billet family has taken him in, and said he's played some of his best hockey since the war. And he says he can't even wrap his mind around how that's possible. He pointed to a playoff game where there was a big presentation before the game in his honor, and he said after that, when you would think it would be so emotional, Will said there's no way he would have been able to go out and play a game, but it was one of the best games he's seen him play. He also pointed out that he went there not even to scout him. He went there just to check on his well-being, how he was doing. So not only does that again speak to Artur, but it also speaks to Will and the incredible job he does, and really just how the entire organization makes sure that none of these prospects ever feel forgotten, no matter where they are in their journey.
And of course, Artur Cholach in that circumstance, part of what we look for in these young players in these development settings, yes, it's on ice, but it's also character. And of course, a player who's able to handle the immensity of the situation with, especially with family back in Ukraine. If he hadn't been able to handle it well, it would be understandable. But the fact that he was able to play his best hockey in those circumstances, again, just shows the character of a young man. As here's Ivan Morozov stood up at the blue line. He'll circle back. Ivan Morozov, who joined the Silver Knights at the end of last season for a handful of games, lost the puck here, and Daniel D'Amato will slide it in deep as it rims up the near wall and back out to neutral ice. Played back into his own zone by Wilmer Skoog, a college free agent out of Boston University.
You mentioned Morozov, too. That's another guy that Will Nickel had very high praise for. He said when he was utilized properly in the KHL, he was the leading scorer for anyone under the age of 22. He said there's no one they've worked harder to get here than Ivan Morozov, so definitely a guy to keep an eye on throughout these next couple scrimmages.
Icing called here against Team White. As there we got a close-up shot at Joe Fleming. Played with the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders in the USHL. He's another one of those players who has draft eligibility still. He's going to be going to the to Northeastern University in Boston when he makes the turn to college hockey. And he's one of a couple of players in this development camp, Ashley, that Will Nickel spoke of as he likes the rough stuff. He led the USHL in penalty minutes, did Joe Fleming. You're not going to see that per se in these scrimmages, or at least we don't assume you're going to.
We hope not, but he said buckle up for rookie camp, he said, though. We might see some of that if any of these guys make it to the rookie camp.
Long shot from the left point was blocked in front and rolls behind the net. On it there is Cholach, and his outlet pass on the stick of Ritchie. Now on the left wing side, driving down the wall, Jackson Hallam. Hallam fed between the circles, but off the stick of 2022 draftee Ben Hemmerling. And here comes Brendan Brisson into the offensive zone. And Brendan Brisson made quite the splash last spring when he joined the Silver Knights in the American Hockey League, scored in his first 3 games, and that'd be impressive enough for most young players, Ashley, as this puck deflects to have play. But Brendan Brisson did a heck of a lot before he ever made it to Henderson last year.
Oh, yeah, he did. 2 Olympic goals as well. He represented Team USA in the Olympics. There's a really incredible piece about him, a written piece on VegasGoldenKnights.com. I recommend everyone go and read it, but shares some really cool stories about how his parents have a picture from one of his goals from the Olympics hanging above the fireplace, and he says sometimes he forgets that it even happened. Then he walks by that picture and he's like, oh yeah, such a dream come true. We have plenty to share about Brendan Brisson over these next few days, Brian. He's definitely one of the most highly anticipated prospects.
We played just under 5 minutes of a scoreless first period, and this the first of 3 scrimmages this weekend at City National Arena. As you can see on the periphery of your screen, well-attended scrimmages at City National Arena, as everyone's been chomping at the bit for game action again in Vegas.
Yeah, a reminder for those watching at home, tomorrow's scrimmage will also be free and open to the public at 10 a.m. Now, Saturdays is for exclusively season ticket members who have already pre-registered, but we'll have you covered right here on the VGK digital channels. Myself and Brian will. Shameless plug. Got to get them in when you can, Brian.
We're fighting for viewers. Wilmer Skoog rims it around the boards. Here's a pass into the right circle, a bouncing puck. That was trouble for Justin Lies, and it's worked back. Here's a 2-on-1. Brisson left wing pass in front. And I believe Morozov put that off the post. Team Red keeps the pressure on. Brisson at the side of the net trying to jam it in. He put it off the outside of the cage, and White will escape pressure, but not clear. It was held in for a moment at the blue line by Lucas Cormier, and now back in the red zone. Red team will regroup, and Lucas Cormier, you could say he's had an outstanding year, but that would be cutting him short. He's had 2 outstanding years back-to-back, and he's got the hardware to prove it.
He has. That's something Will Nickel brought up as well. Back-to-back Demon of the Year in the queue.
He got a shot off there that was stopped, and then the rebound just a little too hot to handle for Jacob Brabinitz at the side of the net. He'll go back into the red zone, and chasing back for it in red ice is Joe Fleming. Able to avoid pressure, but coughed it up at the blue line. And D'Amato will chase it back behind the red net. Handling for Team Red and flipping it out to center was Brabinitz. And back at his own blue line handling there was Noah Deladurante, a college free agent of Princeton University. Daniel D'Amato on the left wing side will chip it in. Deladurante, a young defenseman that, again, here is a free agent invitee. And one of those players that, not only are we looking to see what these players can do based on their regular season statistics, offside whistle here, but also you want to see what young players with raw tools who show you a little bit of something, what do they do in a better situation? And earlier talking to some of the staff, they said, Noah Deladurante played on a Princeton team, had a little trouble this season, the team did. He had a team that had a hard time in their own end. Hard to evaluate a defenseman when it's a team that's pinned in their own end a lot.
Yeah, he said the same thing about Luke Chris, number 78 out there. That's a guy to keep an eye on as well. Something we didn't mention right off the top, 11 forwards and 7D for each of these teams, if no one's picked up on that quite yet.
Luke Chris, college free agent out of Brown. A couple of ECACers. Puck comes out to the neutral zone. It's Marcus Kelly. Brandon Wheatking, who spent part of the COVID-abbreviated 2021 season with the Silver Knights in the AHL, spent all of last year in the Western Hockey League.
Brian, you gave them the tour of the Dollar Loan Center. I know they toured T-Mobile Arena as well, but given a lot of these players will be spending a lot of time at the Dollar Loan Center, what was their reaction to the beautiful facility?
I think the greatest reaction was the locker room, and you would expect that to be the case, right? They get to see where they're going to be hanging out, so the locker room got a great reaction. And not to mention, I get impressed by things that maybe others don't, especially if they spend a lot of time in great facilities like a lot of these young players do in junior and college. But in the Silver Knights locker room, on the ceiling, there's just a real big blown up, neon's not the right word, but lit logo of the HSK, which I like.
The kids say it's lit.
It's lit, indeed. I don't say that, but they do. I get laughed at like you're doing right now. But so the locker room got great reviews, and you wouldn't be surprised it's a state-of-the-art locker room. But as they got to climb higher into the bowl, and I think it's the same thing fans experience. That first time that you walk out into the Arena Bowl and look out and see, and yesterday the bowl wasn't set up for hockey, of course, but you still just get a sense of the proximity to the ice and the fact that, I heard a couple of players, like, how much does this seat? I said, a little over 5,700, and they said, well, this place must get loud then. So I think, especially after seeing T-Mobile, they appreciated that for an AHL setting. It's a great building.
What do you notice about how that compares to the other AHL facilities? It's got to be up there with the best of the best.
Oh, it's the best I get to go to, and I don't just say that because I get to hang out there all the time. As a pass in front bounces over the stick of Daniel Borash. I think the proximity is really what gets everybody. The fact that when you're in the quote-unquote nosebleeds, you feel like you could trip forward and hit your head on the glass.
Truly.
But it's... it really is it's clean, it's bright, it has a newness that you don't necessarily get in a lot of AHL buildings these days. I think the players realize that. I'll tell you, I just came back from a trip to Boston. I got to tour Fenway Park and a couple other historical monuments, and when you spend the entire week going on tours of things that are 300 years old, it's weird giving a tour to kids for something that's about 3.5 months old.
But you know all the history, Brian.
That's
Think about
right.
it that way.
They appreciated the hallowed grounds that they stood on. We have about, as I look through the curtain, about 10 minutes gone in this first period. And again, we will play a standard 3 periods in this game, and we're still scoreless.
How are you feeling about the pace so far, Brian?
Energetic and funny, a little freewheeling. This is what summer hockey should feel like, as Marcus Kelly brought the puck in offside. Just to give everyone an update, too, as you're scanning, and, of course, we're weaving. This isn't a radio audience, so we're giving you some background on players. We're not exactly as detailed on the play-by-play as we would be in the middle of October. A couple of players who are not out there. Leighton Ahak, who has spent parts of the last 2 seasons with the HSK. He's one of your more seasoned veterans, a third-round pick for the VGK. He is not out on the ice, nor is first-round pick in 2021, Zach Dean. He will not take part in any of the scrimmages this week, just as a precaution.
Nor is Gustafson, 2022 draft pick.
Correct. Jordan Gustafson, the third-rounder, is not in. And we are also without Mr. Holtz, who is not in for tonight's scrimmage either.
Although Gustafson isn't in, it is worth noting that he is an avid guitarist. Eric Clapton, his musician of choice. That's who he tries to imitate. Could you do that, Brian?
I don't think I could.
Could you sing any Eric Clapton for him?
I don't think I could imitate Clapton sitting in a chair. I can't imitate anything he does. But we're early in the weekend. I've got till Saturday to figure that one out.
He and Ben Himmerling, who is on Team White, also grew up playing together. They've known each other since they were about 5 years old. They played both with and against each other growing up, so don't know if we'll have a chance to see it this week, but certainly 2 guys to keep an eye on as they develop because there is a lot of natural chemistry there.
Caden Korzak was knocked down behind the net by Marcus Stoppa, college free agent out of Michigan. Caden Korzak, unless I'm overlooking someone, and shame on me if I am, but I believe I'm right, the only player at development camp this weekend who's appeared in an NHL game, made his debut this past season.
Will Nickel really proud of his leadership this week already, too. He's pointed that out a few times.
Hemmerling in the far corner had poked off his stick. Brisson will chip it off the wall, but it was knocked down. Good play with the stick by Noah Ellis, who hacks it back in. Ellis, a 6th rounder in 2020. With Muskegon of the USHL, this puck sent all the way down. Icing is whistled. Ashley, it's interesting. You mentioned the leadership of Caden Korzak. These are all young kids, but this is an opportunity. Caden Korzak, who going into his 3rd pro season now, really his 2nd. Yes, he played in the COVID-shortened 2021 season, but he had to go back to junior in the middle of that too. But his voice is going to become louder in that locker room. But this is really a peer group for some of these 20, 21-year-olds to grab some young kids by the hand who might be a little bit shy in this new NHL setting and show that kind of leadership. So not only is it to see what they're capable of in that role, but also it pushes them to take that role. Definitely,
without a doubt. I think that's the case for Caden Korzak as well. In his media availability yesterday, he made no bones about it. He said, I'm trying to make the big club this year, and everyone in this organization knows that doesn't just mean what you do on the ice. This organization puts so much weight behind character, behind leadership, behind going about things the right way. So this just another step for him to continue showing that to the coaching staff and Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee, everyone else who's watching.
Nolan Moyle was turned away by Isaiah Seville. We mentioned Jesper Vikman down one end, Isaiah Seville down the other. And Isaiah Seville couldn't have made a better impression last year after leaving the University of Nebraska-Omaha in the spring, joining the Silver Knights. And, well, he just had the longest personal winning streak for any Silver Knights goaltender in their young franchise history. Won 6 games in April.
Yeah, we might see him in the ECHL to start this year. We don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but he's good with that. He's good with going and learning how to be a pro on a daily basis.
And that's how that goaltending position actually is just so different from other positions. You know, there's only one net, right? And there's only 2 goaltenders who are going to mind it. So when you're a young player, especially a young player talented and having success, it's important to have reps. And you look at the AHL level for the Silver Knights, Yuri Patera has been solid for the last couple of years. You want to make sure he's going to get as much ice time as possible, and that's where ECHL Savannah might factor in.
And while we're talking about goaltenders and development, yesterday the prospects teamed up with Catholic Charities of Southern Nevada to prepare meals, feed some men and women in the area who need it most. And I was talking to Will Nickel, and he said that Logan Thompson, that was his favorite part of development camp, and he was actually asking, when is it possible for me to go? I think the guys were skating, but again, goes to show you how much these guys grow both on and off the ice during this week.
And it's fun for them to interact with each other, and it's also fun for them to interact in the community and meet future fans, and that's why it's important to get a taste of both. As D'Amato brings in, he gives left side, and a shot goes off the outside of the net off the stick of Ryan McAllister. D'Amato digging for below the goal line again. D'Amato watched by Cormier. Cormier pokes it off his stick. They still battle below the goal line, and now Ivan Morozov comes in to help. He'll drop it back. And an outlet pass from Jace Weir sends things up ice. Now Cormier and Weir will play catch in their own end again. Lead pass for Larson was out of his reach, and that'll be an icing call against Team Red.
5 minutes left. See Brian peeking through the curtains.
I'm at a strange angle here. As
Ryan Floyd, who runs the studio for us, helping us out a little bit, giving us the signals. Thanks to Ryan Floyd and the entire production team for making these things happen.
There we go. Look at Daniel Chayka at the left point, second-round pick in the 2021 draft. And a player that, again, took big strides this season with Guelph. Tied for 11th among all OHL defensemen with 16 power play assists. Shot from the right point, Cholach. That's into the midsection of Jesper Vikman. He'll hang on for the whistle. Daniel Chayka, again, a second-rounder in 2021. He was 38th overall, and last year attended the rookie tournament in Phoenix. And Bob Lowe's of the scouting department said, you know, this is one of those players that we couldn't believe he dropped down to us in the second round. This is a player a lot of people thought was going to go in the first. And the VGK said, thank you very much. And they're even more encouraged after what he did this past season in Guelph.
Yeah, Chayka also came to Toronto from Russia at the age of 14 because he wanted to play in the NHL. It's not that common for Russian players, young Russian players, to come over that young with that goal already in mind.
I wanted to play in the NHL when I was 7 years old, but I wasn't ready to cross the ocean. Nobody invited me.
Didn't work out quite as well for Brian McCormack. But look at you now, Brian.
And you know what's interesting? You know, it's rare, not unheard of, but rare to make that move at that young age as this puck flips over the glass and out of play. But for a young Russian player to come over at that age, not only is it more time in front of North American eyeballs, but also it's an opportunity to become a little bit more assimilated to the North American culture. And Daniel Chayka speaks very, very good English, very, very comfortable, and because of that, you can think strategic parallels. It's not all that different a path, as the off the face-off Vikman covers, of what Daniil Miramanov did. The only difference, of course, being Chayka was drafted, and Miramanov came over, played midget and junior in Canada, and forced his way up to the NHL, AHL level.
I will say something that's not talked about enough is how quick some of these players who come from different countries, who don't speak English as a first language, come over, throw themselves right into the culture, make such an effort to be able to communicate with their teammates. We don't praise that enough. It has to be equally as taxing as everything you're doing on the ice to try to make all of those adjustments. Most of them do it with a smile here, especially in this organization.
Bouncing puck between the circles is collected and cleared out by Patrick Gay. 5th-round pick in 2022 out of Charlottetown, and plenty of talent for the VGK coming out of Charlottetown between Gay, Brabinets, Lucas Cormier. We're used to seeing a very hefty Brandon Wheat King presence amongst the prospect pool, but Charlottetown's making its voice heard as well.
It is.
And this is Lucas Cormier here, who led the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League among defensemen in scoring each of the last 2 years, was Defenseman of the Year each of the last 2 years, and his wrist shot from distance is shrugged away by Seville. One of the things Will Nickel praised, Ashley, was for Cormier, it's the smarts and his ability, not just his offensive instincts, but he will get pucks through traffic. Whether it's a subtle wrister, he will get it through.
Went as far as to compare him to Cale Makar, the position you might find him on the ice, especially on the power play.
Turns the puck over here, and here's Lies on a drive, and he tried to go wide on Vickman. He was caught from behind. Good defensive play by Jace Weir, who chased him down as Justin Lies nearly took it the distance. Back on the attack for Team Red was Marcus Stappa. He was forced behind the net, left the puck behind. Under pressure was Luke Chris, forces up the far wall. Now Morozov has it in his skates. Morozov trying to shake free. Does so and got deep for Brisson. Brendan Brisson gives out to the point Fleming. Fleming, wrist shot, that was blocked in front off of Brisson, who chases it to the wall, tried to hack it in deep, gave it away, however, and it was sent ahead by Luke Chris and now chipped in deep. Chasing into the far corner for Team White is Ryan McAllister.
Want to let everyone know as well that when this period is over, there will be about a 10 to 12 minute break while they flood the ice. Bruce Cassidy will be joining the stream. He's been on the ice with these prospects throughout the week. Must be so cool for them already get FaceTime with the new coach of the big club.
And for him as well. I mean, you talk about these players getting acclimated. Bruce Cassidy is, still getting all the information he can about the organization top to bottom. I'm sure he's learning as much as anybody this week.
The number of people he has had to meet in the last month or so, cannot imagine. I want to be able to keep it all straight.
And now he's got to meet us.
Poor guy.
Connor Ford was in on the draw, but pulled back away from him. Here's Connor Corcoran. Corcoran, the 5th-round pick for the VGK in 2018. Spent parts of the last 2 seasons in Henderson and in ECHL Fort Wayne. Chayka behind his own net, pressured by Callian Kelly. Bounced it up the boards, but not out. D'Amato there to help. He'll whack it out to center. And now here comes Connor Ford with room to maneuver. On the left wing, Ford looking towards the middle, threw it on net, kicked away to the corner by Vickman. And now it can be cleared out to center as it was flicked forward by Matthias Sapovalev. Excuse me.
We've gone back and forth on pronunciations.
2nd-round pick in 2022.
We want to get it right, Brian, but sometimes young kids want to be respectful and they tell us to say their name however we want.
Which is very nice of them.
The right way. We want to get it right, Matthias.
I always say, what does your mother call you? I can do it too. Patrick Gay, a long wrister. That's deflected in. Gay sent it down low and a nifty redirect at the side of the net. That was tipped in by Jacob Brabinets, and he gets the first goal of the scrimmage to make it 1-0 Team Red. That was a nifty little deflection by Brabinets. I don't... you tell me, Asher. I think he reached out with one hand. Did I see that right?
I think that's what I saw as well. And he's smiling. According to Will Nickel, he's always smiling. Bubbly is the word Will Nickel used to describe him.
And it was Gay, the Charlottetown Islander, sending it down low. Brabinets, the Charlottetown Islander, reaching out to get a piece. I don't doubt they've done that before, and it's 1-0 Red. Late in this first period, 10 seconds left in this first period, in fact. As chasing the puck back is Noah Deladurante. He'll dribble out the clock, and the first period comes to an end. So like you said, Ashley, you asked about the pace. I thought that was fun, freewheeling, and I don't think we expected to see any open ice crushers, so if there's open ice, you might as well take advantage of it, and good to see the creative guys get an opportunity to flex their muscle.
Yeah, exactly. You know, sometimes you expect a scrimmage after one period, maybe the score to be a little higher than 1-0. But what's interesting is multiple goalies have talked this week, you know, because they've been put through the ringer this week. All the shooting drills, these young goalies, you know, they're just getting put through the ringer. So they talked about how when they're in those shooting drills, they're actually not that worried about stopping the puck. They're more worried about the mechanics and the things they can pick up from Mike Rosati while he's here. New head goalie coach Sean Burke as well has been working with them. But they said once it's scrimmage time, they're trying to stop the puck. That's the focus, and that's clearly what they did. 1-0 after one period. Again,
from the information we've heard talking to development staff members throughout the last couple of days, one of the players that was focused on was Cameron Whitehead, who again is a 2022 draft pick. And the experience of coming to development camp and facing NHL/AHL shooters, you know, the quality of the shooters that they're facing in this setting, different than it is back home, and that's a learning experience for them to take back with them.
It is completely. Will Nickel talked about Cameron Whitehead specifically. He said probably woke him up a little bit to take some shots from Brendan Brisson and Ivan Morozov, but hopefully we see him here in the next couple periods. And we're now joined by a very special guest, Bruce Cassidy, head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. Bruce, how are you? How's the week been for you?
It's been great. Coaches got together for the first time as a staff to go over some, talking points, how we're going to play, get to know each other a little bit, and then for me, everybody basically. And then now getting to see some of the future Golden Knights, has been nice because I don't think they've had these for a few years because of COVID. So everyone, even for the players, management, everyone, it's just nice to get everyone back together and sort of get the season started.
When I think of development camps, sometimes I think of them in terms of it's almost like orientation, not just for the new players who were just drafted, but also players of the last couple of years. Does it feel that way for coaches as well? Everyone's getting to know each other in some sense.
It is, and as I said, I'm probably me and John Stevens are the newest, so for us it's good to get to put faces to names that you talk to in text and whatnot. So it's real good. Coaches need training camp too. Development camp for us a little bit because we've had some changes and some new people. Sean Burke again is new as well, so I think it's been really good. 4 or 5 days, and I think the players have been treated with a lot of respect, and they've done the same to the training staff. It's tough for them. A lot of new faces, a lot of people coming and going. So I thought they've done a real nice job all around.
Is there anything you've learned about the organization? You said it's training camp for the coaches as well as you get used to how everything is run. What have you learned so far this week about the organization?
It's a first-class operation. They spare no expense to make everyone comfortable, to put the players in positions to succeed. Will Nickel's done a great job organizing. The scouts are here, so you're getting to know some tidbits about these players. You can watch them on the ice, but get to know a little bit about their history. So I just think it's been real professional, really well done.
For these players, we've been talking for the last half hour, it's not just on-ice activity, very important on-ice activity, but they're also doing community engagements. They're also getting familiar with the town. What's important for a player to take away from development camp outside the rink?
Well, a sense of community, right? I think it's important these guys learn at a young age that it goes with the territory. I think any good organization, players are out in the community, they're giving back, right? I mean, the fans are the ones that basically pay their salaries, so let's get out in the community, represent the Knights, visit hospitals, visit schools, whatever the situation dictates. So, and again, it's part of what will happen going forward for them, and they should enjoy that part of the game, giving back and being out with people like outside their uniforms.
What is the significance for you of getting this face time with these players who could end up on your team one day?
They could, and some quicker than others. White Cloud's a great example of that, some of those guys, and I'm glad that he spoke about that because they got to start somewhere. Most every kid will start in some sort of development camp, and that's the way it works. So they start learning what it's like to be a Golden Knight. You're getting to see the facility. You're in the locker room. You're seeing some of the players that are here working out what it takes. So you're getting some firsthand knowledge from them that have been there. So for me, I'm again putting eyes on players that will challenge people that have been here for a while. And I think in any good organization, if you push from underneath, have some young kids coming and the other guys don't get comfortable, I think that it makes for better competition, which probably means you have a better team.
I don't know how much time you get to spend with each individual player. There's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of players in camp, but one of the players that we heard mentioned by Will Nickel that he's impressed with during this development camp is Caden Korzak, and one of the reasons is amongst a very, very young group, he's actually one of the older guys. Are there different expectations in a development camp for a player who was drafted a week ago versus a player who's been in the organization for a little bit?
Absolutely. Even though they may not have gone through enough of these development camps, because of the postponement, there's still guys that are leaders. They've been around pro hockey longer. So we talked about that before it started. Listen, you're going to compete. Once the puck drops, that's what it's about. It's competition, and you're being evaluated when you're on the ice. But you're also expected to be a good leader and a good teammate and help, whether it's a language barrier, whether a guy can't, is having trouble finding his way around because he's new, etc. All that stuff to sort of calm their nerves. And every great team has great teammates. And that's also part of the process this week, and good for him for taking the leadership role in that area. And there should be a few guys like that have been there, and that was the ask, and good to see them responding.
Straying from the development camp aspect of it a little bit, big news for the Vegas Golden Knights with Riley Smith's 3-year extension. What do you know and what have you seen from him as a player?
Smart, two-way, can play in all situations. He was in Boston briefly when I was in Providence, so I didn't coach him, but I watched him play. And then obviously he's grown his game. He's farther down the line in his career, and he's also an original Knight. I think that matters too, to have some of that guys that have been here that set the culture for the hockey club. And I know you can't keep them all. It's a tough business, but I'm glad that Riley's back.
How has that the last couple of weeks been for you? You joined the organization. I'm sure there's an eagerness to hit the ground running, but there are also, with the draft and also free agency, there are some chips that still have to fall into place. Has it been a little bit of a balancing act?
Yeah, for me it's more getting settled in with our staff, discussing how we feel, what changes we need to make, and how we're going to play, communicating with all the players, just even if it's just to say hello, get their feelings. I know a lot of them were not healthy at the end of the year. How they doing that way? How was their chemistry with guys in the rooms? You're starting to get those initial conversations going. So I think was what I use my time for. The draft predominantly is the scouts day. They're the ones that watch players all year round. The coaches really just hope they get good players for them. That's all, but we don't really know the players. We don't see them. We're busy during the year, watching NHL players. So I think the draft is more about them. So again, just wishing them well. But this is good. This is now you're seeing the first wave of players that you may have, because some of these guys will be at rookie camp, some will be at the main camp, others will go back to junior and college and whatnot. So this is the part where coaches start to get excited.
You mentioned John Stevens and Sean Burke, the two newest assistant coaches. What can you tell us about them? We've read about them, but the fans haven't necessarily heard from them or heard from someone who's worked so closely with them.
Yeah, Sean Burke, ex-goaltender, played I think almost till he was 40. So and a bigger guy that would play a similar style to Robin. So I think they'll connect, those two, just the fact that the positional needs and the understanding of it. So Sean's got lots of personality, a number of different jobs, so I think he understands the business well. John won 2 cups in LA with McNabb and Martinez, so an instant connection there. He's been a head coach in the National Hockey League. I was looking for a guy that had been that, because he's going to run the D and the penalty kill, so he'll be right up to speed right away. We're just going to have to get to know each other a little bit in terms of matchups, etc. And he knows the West. He's been coaching in the West, Dallas and LA for a long time. I'm coming from the East, so there'll be some institutional knowledge there for him. He's a good man, John. Both his sons play pro hockey, so he's a hockey guy. He's quiet but engaging once you get to know him, and I'm sure the fans will appreciate his work.
You're also working a lot this week with the AHL Henderson staff, led by head coach Manny Viveros. For a lot of organizations, there's the expectation of, whether it be structure or culture, some synergy between how the NHL and the AHL do business. What have the interactions with that coaching staff been like, and how do you see that synergy?
Excellent. They've been in every meeting, every system video and conversation we've had. They've been right there. So they will play the same way as we do. I think that's so much easier on the players going up and down. They don't have to think when they get here. They just have to adjust to National Hockey League talent and speed and etc. So they've been great. Good to work with them, and I think they appreciate the inclusion as well. So hopefully it's seamless, when we get going, and hopefully it's not the injuries of last year. You don't want to see that many of your prospects that quick, but if you have to, then the easier you can get them up to speed, the better it's going to be for everybody.
Bruce, how has the personal adjustment been? Have you made the move yet? Where do you stand?
No, we're still searching. School starts August 15th, so we have a little bit of time. The family will be here by then, in school, ready to go. Whether we're in the place we want to be then, we'll see. That's the next challenge for us. We're working on it, but we'll definitely be here.
How are you dealing with the heat this week? It's the hottest week so far.
Is
so
it? I didn't notice. Yeah, it's beautiful out there.
Even in the studio.
They tell you it's a dry heat, too. I swear there's been a hint of humidity this week.
It's 108, right? So for me, 108 is 108. It's hot, dry or not. But, I think we'll obviously hopefully appreciate it in, December, January,
you will.
when you're not shoveling
yes.
snow. So it's a little bit give and take with everything, right?
Certainly is. Bruce, last one for me. For the players, they have a great experience this week. They meet staff, they have cooking classes, a lot of lessons that they learn. Whether it's going to be in juniors or wherever you're sending them off to after this week, are there marching orders for the remainder of the summer? You've gotten this information. Here's your assignment until we see you again.
Yeah, that's where Jonesy comes in. He's been running the camp all week. He should have video information for technical part of it. So when they're on the ice, they can work on some of that stuff. Their fitness when they're up in the gym, how to work out, they can start building some of that. Now I know they go back to their teams and their guys, but if they can start incorporating some of those lessons. And the cooking, I think, is just as you turn pro, you can't eat out every night. I mean, I guess you can, but it's nice if you can learn some of those skills so that you can eat healthy. And I think a lot of these kids, we all went through it, right? It's a learning curve at this age to start to understand what's good for your body, what's not. So I think that's a great option as well.
Well, Bruce, thanks so much for stopping by. I think they're going to be dropping the puck soon, and I'm sure you want to watch. And
I do.
You're talking about food. Feel free. We have Mackenzie River appetizers here. Feel free to grab if you want.
All right.
Way out.
All right.
Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Enjoy the second and third periods.
Yep,
At
I
Scrimmage.
plan on. Yep.
See
Thank
you.
you.
This week.
Thanks,
Right.
Coach.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Coach said, and he's absolutely right, you can't eat out every night. I do, and I failed Jeff Kunkel's fitness test, so if he ever needs to scare them straight, I'm the after in his before and after.
That cooking class is serious business, too. They were all locked in, completely locked in. One guy said he only knows how to make scrambled eggs, and those are getting bland after a while. So they really learn how to do it. It's something you don't think about, but actually is so important, especially because so many of them have either lived at home or lived with billet families, and it really is such a big part of becoming a pro.
You also think, too, of all the things they're going to do this week, they're going to learn how to do them better. They're going to learn a higher expectation, but they probably think they know how to do it all. They're like, all right, we're going to go over breakouts or whatever. Like, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yep.
I know how to do this. Cooking is probably the one thing this week that they probably went in and could honestly say, I've got a lot to learn.
Yes.
Speaking of cooking, yes, you mentioned we've got these Mackenzie River appetizers brought in for us. What have we here? I think this is
Hummus.
And
is that not as up your alley? Is that a little healthy for you? You want to swap?
Probably a good trade. Yeah. I'm not the hummus type.
Hummus is good as long as you get the carbs with the pita.
Hummus is very good. My wife eats it left and right. Like I said, I would have failed Jeff Kunkel's fitness training.
As would I.
It's my own fault.
How cool is it, too, that Bruce Cassidy not only is involved with this, but willing to stop by and chat. He's been so good to work with the organization.
Yeah.
He shares such good insights. Very honest, which I really appreciate.
And as we mentioned, as he mentioned, jumping right in. He got in just in time for draft free agency. Again, things don't directly require his input per se, but it all comes into the scope of learning a new organization and the culture that comes with it. So very, very thankful that he was willing to give us a few minutes of his time to let us know how he's coming along too, and house shopping in the process too, it appears. As our second period, I just did it.
Especially in this heat. That's another thing in the heat.
Finding places that have good air conditioning and good airflow. Second period is underway as Caden Korzak takes a bump behind his own net. It appears as though Isaiah Seville is still in the crease for Team White as he steers a puck over the glass and out of play. We are not sure ourselves, because we are not coaches, not to shock you, what the breakdown is going to be for goalie workloads. We'll keep an eye on it, but that is Isaiah Seville, so he remains.
We dropped the ball on that. We just told everyone we talked to Will Nickel for an hour and failed to get the format.
I told you we could have done 3.
You did say that in your defense.
Working his way up the right side, but still up in the neutral zone was Daniel Borash. Following up was Ellis, who flips it over the glass and out of play. There we get a look at Carter Such of the Edmonton Oil Kings, another one of those free agents who's here hoping he can make a good impression and maybe work his way into the organization with a pro opportunity. Working back into his own end to pick the puck up for Team White was Noah Ellis, 6th round pick in 2020. And he's not the only one, Ashley, but he is one that Will Nickel identified as a hockey nerd, and he in the most complimentary of senses.
He did a few, and whenever he was talking about the quote-unquote hockey nerds, he was comparing them to Zach Whitecloud. Said he's the exact same way. Said there's no amount of time that would be enough to go over a game with them. They just want more. They're a sponge. And it's interesting, his name, Zach Whitecloud's name, has come up a lot throughout this camp just because it's the perfect example of what this organization wants, both on and off the ice.
And Noah Ellis, who they said at the beginning, raw in the beginning when he was drafted, but great measurables, great raw skills, and he's another player that over the last year really a sizable step forward.
Yeah, it stood out to me. He used the term slow cooker, maybe needs some time, but he's got time, so that's okay.
What a great metaphor that is,
yes.
Slow cooker. I like that paints the picture. And he will be going to UMass Amherst when he makes the college turn. Working in on the left wing side for Team Red is Nolan Moyle. Got it behind the net. Now it works back up to the left point. Joe Fleming trying to hold in. Does so nicely and got across a long wrist shot handled by Seville. He'll get the whistle.
Seville, another guy whose leadership has stood out to the organization this week.
Which is, again, so ironic. He made his pro debut last end of March, beginning of April. And that's something that really, throughout the year, players on the Silver Knights commented about constantly. And part of the reason was he was having such tremendous success. He was 6-1. But they said, he's just so composed. And you're not used to seeing someone come into the pro game and instantly be composed. And that, whether it be development camp, a pro locker room, whatever, that is Seville's personality. He's just very, very comfortable in his own skin as he makes a stop in tight there on Alex Svetlikov. Faceoff will come to Seville's left. And winning the face-off back for Team White was Wilmer Skoog, but good forecheck pressure for Team Red as Svetlikov took it away, tried to get it to the front, but it deflects to the half wall. Weave down from the blue line, held in. Here's Svetlikov between the circles. He takes a jolt, as one of the few hits we've seen thus far was from Wilmer Skoog. And allows Team White to move ahead. McAllister working behind that. He's jolted by Fleming. Morozov in for Team Red, looking to dig it free. Does so and got some help as it was backhanded out by Poisson. Back in his own zone, Chris will drop it back, and now he'll get it back. Chris dangling into the offensive zone has McAllister. Pass to the high slot. A wrist shot by D'Amato was blocked, and the rebound hacked behind the net. Daniel D'Amato, an AHL contract with the Henderson Silver Knights that he signed last year, a 2-year AHL contract, after which, signing it, he went back to the OHL and with the Erie Otters, and he has probably the most unique path,
without a doubt,
to pro of anyone in camp this weekend.
Yeah, discovered in an 8-game showcase put on by players themselves after the OHL year when a lot of teams weren't playing. The players put together their own showcase. A bunch of scouts and organizations went out to watch him, and he stood out.
He was a player that in midget broke his femur, so he missed a year there. And then during COVID, because of the canceled season, missed a year there. So this is a young player who's missed 2 years of development. He's an 01 birth date, so he's a young player. And he's missed 2 years of development. So Will Nichols said, wasn't too proud to consider an AHL deal. He welcomed the opportunity, scored his first AHL goal in a short stint with the Silver Knights last season. Very, very impressive young man who has not been given anything whatsoever in the course of his young career, and he's carved out a place for himself in the pro ranks and in development camp this week.
No, he said that after he broke his femur, he had to call midget teams to get them to give him a tryout after he broke his femur because people didn't know if he'd be able to make it back. So not afraid to push for himself. But I think that's something really with a lot of these young kids. COVID's taken a toll on everyone in this world, of course, do not get me wrong. A lot of these young kids have shown a lot of resiliency, though, just from having seasons canceled to not getting the FaceTime. Last year, development camp was virtual. They did it all via Zoom. They, made the most of what they had. They had them talk to a nutritionist, but of course that's different than the cooking class that they had hands-on a couple days ago, where they're really able to learn and watch how everything like that is done. It's impressive how much they've been through, and they're still finding a way to get invited to these camps, and many of them will still find a way to make it to the National Hockey League.
Isaiah Seville made a save there on Nick Poisson out of Providence College. Tell you what, virtual development camp, I'm sure that the conditioning test for virtual development camp a little easier to handle.
I could pass that one. I think I could pass that one. It's interesting, though, because that's where they started something that's now become a staple of development camp. That's now going to be something that they do every year, and that's a Q&A with current Vegas Golden Knights players. They started that last year when it was virtual. It went so well that they said we have to do that again. So yesterday, Keegan Colasar and Zach Whitecloud held a Q&A with these guys. They were able to ask them anything they wanted, and Whitecloud and Colasar even said to them, if there's anything you're not comfortable asking in front of everyone, feel free to come up to us after. And Will Nichols said Keegan and Zach hung out for about a half hour afterward, just talking to these guys one-on-one.
Weaving his way into the slot and onto the backhand was Skoog, but couldn't get the shot off, and it's brought the other way by Patrick Gay. He'll flip it in deep. Talking about the seminar, if you will, with Whitecloud and Colasar yesterday, Cormier a wrist shot. That was off the side of the mask of Seville, it looked like. And we're gonna have our first penalty going down in the corner.
That's
that was
discipline right there.
That was
So
Joey
this
Larson
long for a
who
penalty.
went down. Joey Larson went down. We're going to have our first power play as Wilmer Skoog will head off. But talking of that seminar, think of how many classroom settings there are where it's like, all right, does anyone have any questions? Everyone's too embarrassed to ask a question. He said the young players at development camp talking to Keegan Colasar, they were on the edge of their seat, he and Zach Whitecloud, and the great lessons that both had to offer. One of the things that Keegan Colasar talked about earlier in his career, went to the ECHL in Quad City a couple of times, and his ability to battle back from that as a long shot by Corcoran is gloved by Seville. I shouldn't say battle back from that. His ability to take that in stride, learn from it, and apply that to his call-up back to the AHL. One of the reasons he's continued to climb is that attitude he had early in his career.
Brian, I have a feeling you were never too embarrassed to ask a question in class. Am I right?
Well, yeah, we were all late to our next class, but I like to think we learned something in the process. Puck comes out to the point under the stick of Brisson. He and Corcoran will chase back for it, and Brisson does get there to chip it back. Connor Corcoran had an impressive power play stint with the Silver Knights. Again, was back and forth between the HSK and the Fort Wayne Comets of the ECHL. Had 20 goals in Fort Wayne. He is an offensive defenseman. But also had 3 power play goals as a Silver Knight, as he was pretty dangerous from the top of the left circle in that role. D'Amato will chip this out to center. Corcoran will keep it away from him, and now Corcoran will backtrack to his own blue line. Played just over 6 minutes of this second period. And it is a 1-0 Team Red lead on the goal from Jacob Rabinets. Cormier dangling out to neutral ice. Now he'll play it for Brisson, who carries over the line, poked off his stick, and Brisson just able to hold in. Gives for Cormier center point. Top of the left circle, Brabinets. Left corner, Morozov. Up high, Cormier. Right side, Brisson, a one-timer that's fought off by Seville. Korzak behind his own net. Stripped of the puck by Brabinets. Out up top for Cormier again. Right side, sent down low, and trying to connect with Brabinets was Brisson, and it looked like Seville got just enough as Team White can clear. Cormier through center, gets to the Team White blue line. Tried to go left side for Svetlikov, but couldn't connect. Puck comes to the far wall. Unable to clear. Here's Cormier, lets a wrist shot go, saves Seville, rebound to the corner, and steered away from trouble. Now back in front again, trying to get it down low was Chris, unable to do so. Now a roll behind the net, where able to settle things down for a moment is Noah Ellis. We Quick count of who's on the ice. I believe power play time is over.
I'm trying to count myself, Brian.
It is indeed.
We get spoiled with the.
We get a whistle here as Patrick Gay, I believe, brought the puck in offside. And we'll get a stoppage with about 7:45 gone in period 2. And we're actually going to have, Ellis going off to the bench. I thought he was to the box. Thought this game was starting to turn into a melee, but instead it's a line change and a face-off coming at the team white line.
A few good looks for Lucas Cormier. That offensive part of his game is what stands out most, but Will Nichols said he really has bought into growing the defensive side of his game as well. He said it's really common for young defensemen to think that if they can score, that's all they need, but he said he has completely bought in to building that other side of his game and becoming a 200-foot player.
What was a great story, Ashley, was that fans will remember Lucas Cormier had an NHL exhibition game last preseason, had a great first period, and Will Nichols said it was a great first period. He let the game come to him. He was calm, stayed within himself. The second period was a challenge, and it was because he tried to do the things that you wouldn't even say he can get away with at the junior level, the things he thrives with at the junior level. And that was a good lesson where they said, hey, the first period, that's what your game needs to be. As a shot is kicked away, Kelly in tight on Seville. Another try stop by Seville. Quick with the right pad twice. But the story that came away from that was for Lucas Cormier going into this season, the first period you is what you need to be all the time, and they said he really bought into that.
Yep, said that was the roadmap. This organization is honest with these prospects, if nothing else, and because they do such a good job with who they bring into the organization, a lot of these prospects buy in. So they're honest, but Will Nichols isn't afraid to tell people, well, you probably deserve to get sad, or you probably deserve for that to happen, but it doesn't stop there. Then he goes and, helps them understand how they can grow from that point forward.
Puck chipped out up the left wing side by Rydell. He'll go back behind the white net, and therefore it is Della Durante under pressure, able to move it left side. Now puck sent cross ice and out to center. Forecheck pressure for Team White coming from Ryder Donovan, but the red team able to chip it in. Seville plays it himself. And we play a little bit of back and forth between the red and the blue. White settled it down for a moment, but again it's cleared out by Will Rydell, and Della Durante is going to have to go back in his own zone for it once more. Jacob Brabinet's the only goal of the scrimmage thus far. Puck carried in on the right side, but bounced off the stick of Justin Lies, and that shot they score. Following up the play on the left wing side. It was fired home. It looks like Jacob Guavin got the goal, and it's a tie game at 1.
Now we're talking.
Well, after, again, dueling turnovers, as I like to call them, the puck finally worked its way in, and it was Jacob Guavin, the draft-eligible player. We said there's a few players here who still have a couple years of draft eligibility. They get an opportunity to come to a weekend like this and give scouts a reason to keep an eye on them through the next year.
Yeah, kind of a free look for the scouts as well.
Which is also to say that for many of these players, they're invited to multiple camps. And these players decide to spend the week in Summerlin. So Guavin gets the goal. We are tied at 1. Minor pause here. I don't think it's going to review. No one knows I'm joking there. I just realized.
I apologize.
They are discussing it. No.
There was a player, Nick Poisson, 27 camp invites.
Yeah.
You talked about guys being
having their
invited
options.
To multiple, so keep an eye on number 84. 27 camp invites is a lot.
And Nick Poisson, who we mentioned is from Providence College, best friends with defenseman Leighton Ahak.
Who's not playing today, unfortunately, but it's got to help. All these kids from Charlottetown, for example, and then you have those two that are best friends. It's got to help when you come in and have someone to lean on. Of course, you want to branch out. This is something that I think the organization keeps an eye on, which guys are branching out, which guys are getting to know other people, leading other people, but it has to be a bit of comfort to have some familiar faces.
And on the right side, drop back by Kelly, and Kelly Skoog with a long wrister, and that was fought off. Talked about the shuffling goaltenders. We've had a shuffle. Cameron Whitehead is now in the crease for Team Red. Take a look and see if Isaiah Seville might have swapped out too, but Whitehead, and indeed he has. So Carl Lindbaum is now in the crease for Team White, and Cameron Whitehead is in for Team Red.
Fun story about Cameron Whitehead. His billet family is here in Vegas during this camp. Said they come to Vegas frequently anyways. The father of the billet family enjoys gambling, so when he got drafted, was going to come here for camp, they said, hey, why not go to our favorite city, Vegas? So here they are right when he's playing. Hopefully they're here at City National Arena watching him get in his first scrimmage.
Icing is called on Team White. Tell you, again, this week is about learning how to be a Vegas Golden Knight in every sense of the word. And he might say, you know what, places that I've played in the past, Lincoln, Nebraska, for argument's sake,
no one came and visit
nobody
me there.
wants to visit him there.
Yep, that's something to get used to it, kids. Once you move to Vegas, all of a sudden people come out of the woodworks, don't they, Brian?
You could be here for 4 days. People have suddenly they have clear schedules and they want to spend the weekend in Vegas.
That is the case.
Cameron
for sure.
Whitehead knows. On the left wing side, trying to force his way to the front was Nolan Ritchie. Couldn't get the pass through. Puck up for grabs between the circles. Ritchie will poke it to the corner, and he'll leave it in the corner for Hemmerling. Hemmerling tied up. Crowd of bodies. Amongst them was Matthias Sapovalev. Team Red will send it down behind the net. And we have a whistle, and I would presume an offside. Just under 9 minutes left in period 2. We are tied at 1. Jacob Brabenitz for Team Red. Jacob Guavin for Team White. You know, something else I thought that was kind of interesting, Ashley, you're talking about the players that know each other and how teams can have hunting grounds where they find more than one prospect. You look at Mark Estapa, is a college free agent, University of Michigan, that's here. On more than one occasion, as left point Cormier, this is a power play for Team Red. That was our prior whistle. Right circle shot is stopped by Lindbaum. He'll hang on. More than one occasion, we heard the scouting people and development personnel saying, well, this is a college free agent, and we were going into Charlottetown all the time to watch these three guys, and as a result, we saw this guy. You know, Mark Estapa is one of the guys that when you're going regularly to watch Brendan Brisson, you say, well, who's Mark Estapa? We should get another look at him too. So, because of their proximity to draft picks.
Definitely. Zach Whitecloud was another example of that.
Yeah.
That's how they discovered him. It's, you know, a message to any young kids, I guess, who are here watching this right now. You might not have all the attention right off the bat, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to be seen. That's why, you know what they say, Brian, character is what you do when no one's watching. People might be watching, though. So, you know.
And also, if
put your best foot forward.
If you score 5 goals, they can't ignore you.
Exactly.
Poisson sends the puck wide. Now he gets it back. Top of the left circle. Morozov sends down low. That was blocked in front. Good play by Cheka. Unable to clear the puck was Team White. Morozov tried to get across. Bouncing puck. Glove down. Brisson looking for options. He has Cormier up top. Now left side. Morozov feathers it across. Brisson tried to send it low again. Cheka able to block that centering feed. Talk about Cheka, how strong his season was last year. He finished the year in the playoffs with the Silver Knights. Didn't appear in game action, but he joined them for their final playoff game in Colorado. So, player to keep an eye on perhaps on the AHL front this season.
You know, something Bruce Cassidy mentioned was that you hope to not see too many prospects too early. Last year was a situation where not only the Golden Knights dealt with all the injuries, but because of that, the Silver Knights lineup was depleted because A, they also dealt with injuries, and B, so many of their players were being sent up to Vegas. What are you expecting from the Henderson Silver Knights?
Well, yeah, that's trickle up economics, if you will. But for the Silver Knights, there's going to be you would presume, the strength and stability of having some regulars, but also as we look at this week, you know, there are players here whose junior eligibility has run its course. You know, there are a few players this weekend who did factor in for HSK, and a couple where that might be their next stop, which is all the more reason why it's important and valuable for the Silver Knight coaching staff to be available for these scrimmages this weekend. Yes, they're doing it just to help chaperone the event. As Brabenitz gives one in front, wrist shot that was stopped by Lindbaum. 2 whacks at it. in tight for Alex Svetlikov. Neither would go. But for the HSK, you're kind of getting to know a lot of these guys because, again, in theory, a lot of them are going to come through Henderson. For some of them, sooner than you think.
Worth noting, too, that the coaching staff of the Savannah Ghost Pirates, the new ECHL affiliate of the Vegas Golden Knights, are also here.
As some of these players might end up the Savannah route as well, especially these college free agents we talk about. Try and make as strong an impression on as many people as you can. Rick Bennett, the head coach in Savannah, who is part of this week's festivities. There we got a look at Cameron Whitehead in the Team Red crease. Taken in the 4th round, 128th overall in the 2022 draft. Long shot by Della Durante, never made it through. Trying to force his way to the middle for Team White was Justin Lies. He was taken down. Good forecheck pressure for Team White. Della Durante down from the left point, able to hold the puck in, and he'll stay after it behind the net. Applying pressure on Sapovaliv, who couldn't get it out. Now out to the left point, a long shot stopped by Whitehead off the stick of Daniel D'Amato. So D'Amato is one AHL contracted signee in development camp this week. Connor Ford is the other. And Connor Ford, such an interesting prospect in that another player like D'Amato saw what his opportunities were, knew an AHL contract was his best option out of college, and this is a player who spent 4 years at Bowling Green, and then his 5th year of eligibility because of the COVID curveball was as a grad student at North Dakota.
Speaking of North Dakota, was on the bus with his teammates. Apparently he had a few different options to sign with different AHL teams. So he stands up on the bus and says, okay, we're going to take a poll, teammates. Which team do I sign with? And evidently it was unanimously the Henderson Silver Knights. That's the reputation that the Henderson Silver Knights have already garnered around the hockey world. Pretty incredible, and that's a lot of trust in your teammates, though. I don't know if I'm putting my future in the hands of my coworkers. No offense, Brian. Maybe. I don't know. I love everyone. But, still just gutsy. What if it went the wrong way?
Right. Just a lot of trust, and and they all said Henderson, so I'm sure there was a hockey element to that, or probably all of them too, like, hey,
I
guys,
can go stay in Vegas.
Hey guys, should I go to Vegas?
It all comes full circle.
Yeah, sure. Do it, buddy. But I'll tell you what, that's the reputation that Vegas and Henderson collectively have. The reputation that Connor Ford has, if the report I read was correct, and I think it was, as mentioned, he spent his grad school season at the University of North Dakota. So his first year at North Dakota was his 5th year of college hockey. Came in with a reputation as a good, strong defensive player and had 16 goals one year, so a good reputation. But he is the first-year player at North Dakota to wear a letter since 1961. Wow. He was an assistant captain, so he came in, and they said, you know what, you've been here 5 minutes, but we need to make you a part of our leadership group. That reflects how people feel about Connor Ford. And he has the puck here as he cuts to the middle. Ford, wrist shot. Man who believes in segues, but unfortunately for him, Cameron Whitehead does not. He knocks the puck down, and Team Red will take their time moving up ahead as Patrick Gay sends it across. Now it can be backhanded in deeper by Joey Larson. Plenty of room for Team White to make their way out to center. But a long pass eluded the stick of Carter Such. Big collision in middle of the ice, and it looked like it was Wilmer Skoog who got the worst of it. He's hunched over a bit as he heads over to the bench. Here's Chayka with room to move over the line, dropped it left side. Here's a pass across that was a little bit in the skates of Such, able to fish it out for a shot that was turned away, and Kelly is in center.
Maybe not talked about enough this week is the training and equipment staff this week. We talked about how jam-packed the schedule is for these prospects, and they were on the ice all day Tuesday. I think 4 total on-ice sessions. This equipment staff's been here all week, also having to get to know the players and their preferences as well.
Nolan Ritchie, a wrist shot into the chest of Whitehead, and he will hang on for the whistle with about 2.5 minutes left in the second period. We are tied at 1. It's funny you mention that, Ashley, because of course the training staff, the equipment managers, you see each other every single day basically for 9.5 months, and then you go to like some. This feels like a long
feels
overdue
like a reunion, right?
Yes,
it does. It does. Monday felt like the first day of school, not just for the prospects, but for us too.
It's weird from going from a relationship with someone where you know exactly what they put on their toast in the morning to what have you done the last 3 weeks. Team White has control in its own zone. Room to move. Caden Korzak tried to center one, and that was under the stick. Driving that was Connor Ford, couldn't connect. Justin Lies will send it cross ice. That was a pass that was a little bit behind Ryder Donovan, but he was able to recover. Now it's Korzak in his own end deep.
Golden Knights fans would like Justin Lies' style of play, that's for sure, if I know anything about the fans here in Vegas.
Justin Lies and Joe Fleming were the two players that we were told. Again, they can't necessarily show their full skill set here in a development camp scrimmage.
You're not trying to hurt any of your fellow prospects here.
These are take-on-all-comers type players. As Del Durante's shot deflects over the glass and out of play. And, of course, Justin Lies still draft eligible of the Vancouver Giants in the Western Hockey League. So one of the guys that Jamie Heward, assistant coach of the Henderson Silver Knights, knows well. He's a former Vancouver Giant coach. And they actually said they had a chance to watch him a little bit earlier this year when the team went to Abbotsford. They had a chance to take in some Vancouver Giants hockey, and we're told that Joel Ward said, "Who's this guy who's hitting everybody?" And that was Justin Lies.
I was also told that at the age of 16 playing for Heward, he would say, "Can I fight this guy? Can I fight this guy? Can I fight this guy?"
Here, eventually
you're going to say yes,
Just
right?
say yes first. Let's get it over with. Why are we prolonging the inevitable? Brabinets gave it ahead. It's carried behind the net. Brabinets will catch up to it. Fades the left point. There's a drive by Rydell that was off the glove and out by Carl Lindbaum. I believe we are inside the final minute. Final 20 seconds, if I can see the scoreboard cross-eyes correctly. McAllister dumps off left side, and a sharp-angled backhander by Noah Ellis is handled by Whitehead for the whistle. 15 seconds left on the clock. You wonder, Ashley, as we mentioned, we've heard some development staff say you want to see players that maybe didn't play on the strongest team, what they can do in settings with maybe a little more skill. How interested are coaches as Larson drives to the net? Second chance stopped by Lindbaum as the buzzer sounds to end the second period. So a little bit of busyness for Lindbaum in the dying seconds of the second. But how much do the coaching staffs, AHL, NHL, what have you, focus on line combinations? I wonder if we're going to see any shuffling on the basis of perfect example when you see the amount of power play time or what have you that Brisson and Morozov are having together. That could be, for all we know, a combination in Henderson this year. How much of the experimentation is for the players' benefit, and how much of it is for the coaching staff to get a sneak peek in a no-pressure setting? Yeah,
the organization has said that they look at that, right? And they look at guys who have played together previously. They look at all those things. But I told you as I was making these lovely
spot charts.
Notes, a collage is what someone called this. We're probably going to see different line combinations. I've got tape everywhere. It looks like a 5-year-old did this, but
tomorrow we're going to do shoebox dioramas. You're going to love it.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do when they switch up the line combinations tomorrow. Going to be starting from scratch, but I got to get a better system down. I asked Brian his system, and he won't share his secrets. So
yeah. So again, based on what you did, what I do is I get a coat hanger and then little pieces of yarn, and we just make what are those called? Mobiles. Yep. That's what I do. It just dangles in front of me the entire night.
Yep, exactly.
Foolproof.
I have a feeling we're going to see some different combinations and D pairs as the next 2 days goes on, though. What do you think?
I think for sure, because, again, we call it a no-pressure environment, and it's because, of course, these players want to perform. They're under a microscope to some extent. They're making first impressions, but it's an opportunity for them to have fun with one another. It's an opportunity for the coaches to play a little bit of mad scientist. Connor Ford has been playing in a checking role, but in a setting like this, he's older, he's more experienced. Let's see what he can do in a power play setting, whatnot. There's room for that. And at the end of the day, whatever you learn, whatever you don't learn, it's all going to be, you do it with a smile because it's fun. And that's, I think, one of the freeing elements of development camp. Everyone should leave development camp with a smile one way or the other.
I agree. I like the attitude. Darren Millard would love your attitude. I hope he's watching.
He has to be. What would Darren be doing?
Darren Millard would love your attitude right now. All about the smiles. Positivity Alley will always welcome Brian McCormack.
We say that you and I are chomping at the bit and we're getting a little stir crazy and we need hockey. We need some structure added back to our lives. If we feel that way, Darren Millard feels that way.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I can guarantee he has a full bio written up on everyone who didn't get drafted last week.
It is all about fun, but given that this is the first scrimmage of prospect camp, I bet there's some nerves. I bet there's some wanting to prove themselves. I bet someone is really wanting to be the hero here in the third period.
I think so. I'll tell you what, we're going through player bios and stories. That's the point of development camp. But at the same time, we've seen pretty good goaltending. We have a 1-1 game through 2 periods. We actually, all things considered, this is a pretty good hockey game.
We have failed at our jobs a couple times. We failed to mention a couple things. It's going to end in a 5-round shootout, no matter the result. So get ready. Who doesn't love a shootout?
I do, but for the integrity of the shootout itself, I almost want it to be
tied.
Yes, I don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. I want it to mean something,
I agree with you on that for sure.
And I also want to ask, again, we talk about the creativity and the fun. I hope we get to see some guys take shootouts who have never taken shootouts before.
Yeah.
We definitely need to see the let's see. So this is going to be a little bit of projection here because I don't know the shootout history of all of our prospects, but you would think, who would be a good example here? I don't know. Like I would imagine Caden Korzak has taken very few shootout opportunities in his career.
And some of those tough guys we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I want to see one of those guys.
Absolutely.
I want to see one of those checkers.
200 penalty minute Joe Fleming. Let's see what his backhand toe drag looks like. That's what I want to see.
You know who has a nice toe drag and can pull off some pretty good moves? Riley Smith.
He does.
He's going to be here for 3 more years, and he met with the media this morning. Let's listen in.
You lost your agent because you got a GM job. What's this process been like? Have you done some things that you've never done in your life before?
Yeah, definitely a different scenario for me. But I think, as you further your career, you really understand where you want to play and what your worth is. So for me, it was pretty simple. I knew I wanted to play here, and to be able to negotiate a deal with this team, it seemed like I didn't need one.
You mentioned that there was your number one goal always to find a way to come back here?
Yeah, I feel like I've put my heart and soul into this organization, and I'm very fortunate that they've noticed that, and they're giving me the opportunity to come back here and chase the goal that we started 5 years ago.
I don't know how much you can go into it, or if you can or you can't, but did you know that there were other teams that maybe were interested in you? Did anyone kind of reach out and kind of give you a hint of maybe they were interested in signing you?
Honestly, my number one goal was to stay here and play here. A lot of that other stuff was background noise for me. So my main goal was to find a way to be able to play here. So I didn't put too much thought into that, to be honest.
Hey Riley, Cassidy from the Las Vegas Review. Would you have thought 6 years ago that Las Vegas would become your home the way it has today? And what does this community mean to you now?
I really didn't think that, I was going to be here long term. I'd played on 3 different teams in a span of about 5 years. I rented my house, I got a rental house here the first couple of years because I wasn't sure. And it seemed like year after year, I just felt more comfortable. The community has really embraced me and my family, and there was no doubt in my mind that this is where I wanted to play and, pretty much finish out my career here.
Did you buy the house that you were renting?
No, I didn't. But I think it was just a rental property. They weren't going to sell it to me. But it's just been such a great experience for me being able to play here for the last 5 years. I couldn't be happier. There's not too many words that I can say to really show how happy I am to be able to extend my career playing here and hopefully finish it here.
That moment buying that house, was that a special moment? Like you said, you had been kind of bouncing around. Was that the moment that you kind of realized, this is home now?
That's what I was hoping. I mean, I bought a house in Fort Lauderdale too, and I was traded 6 months later. So the business, it's super weird how that stuff happens. Part of me didn't want to buy a house here because I was nervous that it was going to give myself some bad juju, and it seemed like that was a trend that was following me around. But very fortunate that that wasn't the case. And you know, in the NHL, no matter how long your contract is, you're kind of on a yearly basis, so you always have to prove yourself, and I'm very excited to be able to do that.
When we talked the other day, you had mentioned to me that it was really important for you to become a pillar in the community, you know, obviously with the charity softball game. How exciting is it for you now knowing that you'll be able to continue to do what you've been doing off the field in this community?
I'm very excited about that. It's obviously a tough thing to do when you're not living in that city. You know, I'm sure it's something that I'll probably try to continue no matter what. I really do feel like Vegas is home for me. So there's a community here that needs help, and I'm definitely willing to stand up and be part of that push. You know, hockey's a very important thing for myself and my family, but there's a lot of other things, and there's a lot of other people in this community who could use extra help. This organization has done a great job really standing up and doing that, and you know, I hope to be a focal point of that going forward.
After you played in the playoffs 4 straight years, you know, out of shoot, and in fact going deep in the playoffs 3 out of 4 years, what was it like this particular year, just sitting home and watching round after round after round, and even some former Golden Knight players who were not in action? What was it, disorienting, or do you feel like there's a little heightened level of expectation going into the new season? What was the mindset?
Well, I feel like the expectation every year, no matter where we finish, has always been heightened. Definitely this off season or this playoffs, it was such a weird feeling. Usually, you know, we always have a pretty deep run, and once we're done, I don't watch any hockey. I watched the last 2.5 months every single game that we played, and probably a bunch of other ones, and then it seemed like I watched every single playoff game as well. So I felt like I was a student of the game again, and I was trying to pick up so many different things where when you're in season, you're playing, you don't have that time to focus on all the other players and all the other teams in the league. So it's definitely a learning experience for me, something that I don't want to have to do again anytime soon. But like I said, the expectation here is high, and you know, we want to be able to push for the Stanley Cup every single year, and we definitely have the roster to do that.
You mentioned you wanted to finish when you started 5 years ago. I guess how important was it to kind of finish when you started with John and Bill?
I love playing with those guys. They're two great people, two great players. You know, hopefully I'll have the opportunity to play with them a lot this upcoming season. You know, they elevate my game, and I think I do that for them as well. So we're a good line, and we're tough to play against when we're all on the same page and playing quick, and hopefully we get that opportunity this year.
Have you spoken to Bruce at all about that?
Yeah, in short, I'm sure there's a lot of different changes that, you know, are still going to happen, and a lot of tweaks. So we'll see at training camp where all the chips lay, but with an 82-game season, things are going to get scrambled around a bunch of times, I'm sure.
Some of the Avalanche players mentioned that losing to you guys the second round of the season before was really used as fuel to elevate them and eventually win a Stanley Cup. I'm wondering, after what you guys kind of struggle through the goal adversity, injuries and stuff, is there anything, do you think that this past season will give you, is there an extra kind of motivation to kind of will to redeem this kind of really choppy season?
I mean, we made it to the finals, 2 conference finals, lost in the first round 1 year in a crazy scenario incident. I don't think we could have any more fuel than we've had over the last few years. You mentioned that last year was pretty crazy with all the injuries and games lost, but I think this group has been motivated since we lost in the finals, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
We've asked guys this for like 5 years, but I guess now that you've signed this deal, can you look back and maybe how different your view of the city of Las Vegas is? You mentioned you weren't sure how long you were going to be here before you got here to now wanting to stay here for another 3 years.
As soon as that first year was done, I knew that this is where I wanted to play. So, I haven't changed that view at all since that year. First year, no one really knew what to expect, and it kind of just worked out in almost the perfect scenario. So, this is a great place to play. Everyone who I talk to around the league wants the opportunity to play here. They love playing here on the road. I think we have the greatest fan base in the NHL, and when things align like that, it's a pretty easy viewpoint to say, I want to stay here, I want to play here. I love the teammates here, I love the organization. They treat us with first class, and they make sure that our families feel the same way. So it's one of those destinations where really every player wants to play, so I'm very fortunate that they've extended me to really do that here.
You guys are going to go into next year without Max and Dylan. Just how difficult is it going to be to replace those two guys?
Yeah, the two guys who are really irreplaceable. I don't think you can just say anyone can just step in and fill someone else's shoes like that. You try to do that stuff by committee. We still have a lot of skill in our locker room, and everyone will have to chip in to fill that void.
That was Riley Smith this morning on signing his 3-year extension with the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas loves their original misfits, but now we're back to this scrimmage presented by Martin Harris Construction, Brian.
Well, thank you, Ashley. It is the third period. We are tied at 1 on goals by Jacob Brabinitz for Team Red and Jacob Guavin for Team White. Jacob Guavin,
Good day to be a Jacob.
Good
day to be a Jacob.
It is.
Yep.
I'm looking for other Jacobs.
Do you have any other Jacobs that might,
for those of you
any game winner predictions here?
Place your bets. No other Jacobs, but there's a Jackson. Nope. There's a Jackson.
Jackson, my money's on him.
Jackson Hallam.
I don't bet on hockey. It's against the rules. But Jackson Hallam, that's.
So we are tied at 1, and as Ashley mentioned before, regardless of outcome at the end of this period, there will be a 5-round shootout. 5-round or 5-man?
Good question.
Puck gloves by Carl Lindbaum. I say that I know that the mathematics of how 5 usually works, but if we're doing this just for the sake of doing it, do we get as many reps in as we possibly can?
Very true.
We'll roll with it. We'll figure it out. There's Patrick Gay, the 5th-round pick this past week for the VGK of the Charlottetown Islanders. 55 goals in 68 games in the queue this year for Patrick Gay. He knows how to score goals, and he had the setup on the Brabinitz tally.
55 goals does not happen often.
And it does not happen by accident either. Here's Hallam driving wide, pass in front, and sliding across to make the save. A great stop by Cameron Whitehead as he has it between the pads. Jackson Hallam driving wide. He slid it across. And pardon me, I'm not exactly sure who he connected with driving the net. Might have been Ryan McAllister, but Cameron Whitehead was faster.
Cameron Whitehead has a pretty outgoing personality as well. He was talking at the draft about how he didn't sleep much the night before. And I was told Mom, if she's out there watching, had the waterworks going. So proud. So cool to see the draft in person again and get to see those reactions.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. And, again, like anything else during COVID the last couple of years, offside here whistled. You did we all did our best, but there's just something different about seeing kids able to work their way up to the stage. And, again, there are several kids in this camp who did not get to have that experience. They had the virtual draft, and all the more meaningful for them now to have in-person development camp.
During tomorrow's scrimmage stream, we'll show you a piece on Artur Kolash and what they did for him during the draft, because he did not have the draft experience. They took him to the draft this year and kind of gave him that experience, especially with, like we were talking about earlier, the year he's gone through, not being able to go home to Ukraine this offseason. Really touching. It's a short piece, but one that might bring a tear to your eye or at least give you some chills for sure.
Here the puck's brought in by Such, dropped back, and a long wrist shot stopped by Lindbaum. Whitehead, excuse me. As that shot from Della Durante came from distance. They want to do us a favor. They could have put Whitehead on Team White. That would have been a lot easier for us.
Would have been. One would think. Come on, guys.
They're keeping us on our
We'll
toes.
put in a formal request next time.
Yeah, we just heard the audio from Riley Smith's comments earlier today, signing a 3-year extension with the VGK. One of the things that really jumped out to me, I'm sure it jumped out to everybody, Ashley, as this puck is brought in by Joe Fleming. He's bumped off the puck by Della Durante. He was a free agent. And, of course, no one's going to delve too deeply into the business mindset of what his plans were. But he pretty much said, he's like, my goal the entire time was to come back to the Golden Knights. I didn't really think about much else. And that's, that just really stands out for a player that was a free agent but really never took his eye off the VGK ball and was rewarded for it.
Yep, he said after year 1, I knew this is where I wanted to be. That stood out to me. And what's interesting is going into last season, he made a comment when asked about going into his final year of his contract. Oh.
There's a putback, and the Team Red has taken the lead. Driving to the net for Red was Cooper Wiley, and the loose change was pumped home from Joey Larson. So Joey Larson has given Team Red a 2-1 lead.
I'm going to have to take some lessons from Shane Knighty. I can't be talking over your goal calls like that, Brian. My gosh.
It's very nice of you to please do talk over. It gives me a chance to catch up on screen and find out where everyone is. Joey Larson, Muskegon Lumberjack, and I believe headed for Northern Michigan University, if I'm not mistaken. He's another one of the college free agents here this week. Had 32 goals in 61 games in the USHL last season. So between him and Jacob Guavin, I mean, the free agents are making good first impressions in Scrimmage 1.
Yeah, Joey Larson has exceeded the expectations of the staff this week as well. That's what we were told. A goal in the first scrimmage can't hurt that either. Might even be the game winner. Time will tell.
Team White will work out to center. Pass into the skates. But able to chip it in was Connor Ford. Now comes out to the blue line. Wrist shot sailed to the corner. Morozov is in deep in his own zone. He was stood up by Ford, who punched it back behind the net. Ryan McAllister on the forecheck, but Morozov has room to maneuver. Dangles around Justin Lies. Still has it to the Team White line, and then Hallam bumps him off the puck.
Going back to Riley Smith, going into the final year of his contract, he was asked about if that's a distraction, and he said every year in Vegas is a contract year, yet he still said this is where he wanted to be. He didn't look anywhere else. I think people underestimate how much players respect the fact that this organization has a winning culture, top to bottom.
Carl Lindbaum able to make a stop. Face-off coming in the Team White zone. We've played just over 4 minutes of this third period. 2-1 Team Red leads. Put in front moments ago by Joey Larson. Bouncing puck out in front of the benches. Now working back in his own zone with his Korzak. He'll whip it off the wall and down. And that didn't connect with anyone. It goes down for icing. Caden Korzak, we mentioned, made his NHL debut last season. Really strong finish to the year with Henderson in the American Hockey League. And he's one of those players, we talked about the leadership aspect. The other thing that sometimes you see that, you hear the term sophomore slump. Sometimes there's a sophomore surge in one area or another, and he surged in terms of just his physicality. He's one of those players that you can tell from a year ago, he's gotten bigger, he's gotten stronger. And he and also Leighton Ahak, Kelly McCrimmon mentioned in his press availability earlier today, he said you just look down on the ice and those are two guys that look like hockey players. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but to paraphrase, those are two guys that look like men.
I believe I heard Korzak put on almost 10 pounds of good weight from the end of last season.
Which, you know what, that's a jump off the page comment in October.
In
July,
yep.
That's something.
Yep. I can tell you a lot about putting on the bad kind of 10 pounds, but the good kind of 10 pounds, that takes some effort, Brian.
The bad 10 pounds, it doesn't take 3 months to do that.
It's true, especially in a hockey season.
Give me a weekend and a Netflix password. I'll get it done. Here's D'Amato on his backhand through traffic. Sends it behind the net. Now up the near wall. Again, tracked down by D'Amato to hold in. McAllister trying to go backdoor and unable to get it through, as that pass was intended for Ryder Donovan and never made it. Back at the blue line, puck was dropped off for Guavin. His wrist shot was blocked. Skips high in the zone and can be collected and brought ahead by Sapovalev. He was stood up by D'Amato and brought down. D'Amato looking to see if there was an arm in the air. There is. Delayed penalty upcoming against Team White. Puck rimmed behind the net, intended for Sapovalev, but touched up by Guavin, and the whistle sounds. Team Red will head to the power play.
Only the second power play of the game. Is that correct?
I believe
Third?
it's Team Red's second.
Okay.
It'd be third. The stat sheets don't update on in July like they do in January, but I'll tell you what, when we have seen this Team Red power play, it's a fun power play. Like we said, the breakdown of different teams, or of the two teams, are a bit different. One team has 7 free agents on it, the other has 6, but we see some more seasoning on Team Red, and that's why this power play has Brisson and Morozov and Corcoran. And Cormier. Corcoran has it here. Right point shot sails wide, as Gay was saying, the screen in front. That deflects over the glass into the mesh and out of play. So we see Gay, Poisson, Corcoran out on the ice, along with Morozov and Brisson. And of course, Brennan Brisson, as much as any player with a month of professional experience can have a patented move or a patented spot, Brisson's one-timer from the right dot, the fame of that preceded his arrival in Henderson. And, well, when he got there, he pretty much put an exclamation point on it that the hype was real.
It's interesting, too, that he didn't always play the first power play unit at Michigan. He played the second power play unit some. Had to power through it, probably not where he wanted to be, but probably played a big role in his development, because part of being a pro is playing where you're placed.
That one deflected right through the feet of Lindbaum. He was looking over his shoulders. It squeaked out the other side, as I think Gay got a piece of that on the way in. Now here's Brisson, a blast save made by Lindbaum with the left pad.
What was that you were saying about Brisson's shot?
That it's heavy, and he's not shy about taking it. But going back to what you were saying about his time in Michigan, at the University of Michigan, as Morozov will back out a little bit and reset things. You know, that was such a stacked team, and he was a major reason that it was stacked, but it also had Kent Johnson and Matty Beniers and Owen Power. As Poisson sent one side of the net, they continue to work it around the outside. That, you know, not everyone can take the last shot.
Yep.
Brisson couldn't get that shot off, as it was a good stick in the lane by Carter Such. But, you know, that's another opportunity that, you know, you never took anything for granted on a roster that's that good, because, you know, if you're going to get offensive opportunities, which they all got great offensive opportunities on that roster, but you need to, you know, it's a competition with the guys on your own power play unit. Here's Morozov. Circles back. Now it's a wrist shot go. That was blocked in front and jammed on net. Lindbaum, a save in tight on Brisson, and now out of the box the other way. D'Amato a shot, and that was stopped by Cameron Whitehead. I'd say things opening up a bit, but that would be a lie. We've been pretty wide open the whole time. Cormier sends out to center. This is Joey Larson. He has the difference-making goal to this point. He'll work it out to the left point. Cormier, wrist shot, dribbles in, didn't get through. At the right point, puck was held in for a moment by Weeb, but then sent the length of the ice, and it's icing against Team White.
Brian, is there anyone in particular jumping off the page at you so far?
Ooh, well, you know, what I am interested in is the AHL guys I see so often. You know what to expect, and it's almost harder to judge them in an atmosphere like this that's a little looser. I was curious, are we going to see some of the things in scrimmage action that, again, we spoke to Will Nickel for an hour, and there's probably no greater, well, he's one of the best resources you can have going into an evening like this. who's going to look like he spoke. And you can just see the cleverness of Lucas Cormier.
Yeah, that's who's jumping off.
You
the
know,
table
there's
as well.
there's the puck moving element and making good decisions. This puck to Flex Ave play. You see what he does when he has time. And what Will Nichols said was, look at how the name he dropped, and not to directly compare them because that's completely unfair, but he says, notice when you watch Cale Makar how he can just change the angle, change the lane enough to send those, my wording, seeing eye single wrist shots through traffic. He said that's something Lucas Cormier does very well. Shots don't get blocked, they get through. And you can see that, just that subtle cleverness to put innocent-looking pucks on net that create havoc.
Again, it might not be a fair comparison, but anytime the reigning Conn Smythe Trophy winner's name is brought up, you've got to, get excited about that, right?
You have no choice.
You have no choice.
Puck comes to the left wing.
And Norris winner, correct?
Yes, correct.
Norris and Conn Smythe.
They just ran out of things to give him, I think. Offside as the puck was brought in on the right wing by Ryder Donovan. Whistle will stop play. Yeah, and you know what? It's worth mentioning all of these players. One of the things they get out of development camp is watch this player. And we heard Zach Whitecloud's name come up a lot as, for young players, young defensive players looking for details in their game, watch Zach Whitecloud. And realize what you do well and what's going to get you to the next level. He said Zach Whitecloud at Bemidji State was a power play guy on the second unit and said, you know what, I'm probably not going to be a power play guy in the NHL. I better get really good at penalty killing. And he did that. That's some of the lessons that these players learn at this level. Even if you go back to junior, you know what, you might score 30 goals in junior. Find out what you're going to do well here. Might be goal scorer, but it might be something else, and that's something that they learn here. Here's Brisson sending down low, and it went off the skate of Sapova living on net. It was fought away by Lindbaum. Back the other way comes Team White as Hallam weaving to the left wing side will chip it behind the net.
Another name that was brought up in terms of comparing players a lot was Jonas Rondbjerg, who also just signed a 3-year deal. When talking about a lot of players, they were comparing the details of their game to the details of Jonas Rondbjerg's in a positive way.
And for those of you wondering, well, you're going to get that kind of attention to your draft picks and to your signed players. What kind of instruction are the free agent invitees getting? Are the coaches going to put as much effort into those players as they are the draft picks? The answer is yes, because first of all, you bring a kid to a camp who had a chance to go to multiple camps, you're going to give him what he came for, but also, as we've mentioned, these are players that are fighting for a chance to be in the organization, or even draft eligible players who want to be on the VGK draft board next year. And for those players, the name that we've heard a lot, Zach Whitecloud one, but also Zach Hayes, about players who can make an impression but also take lessons away from development camp. And if they fall through the draft, and again, this really applies to the free agents who are looking to turn pro, Zach Hayes started on an AHL deal in 2020-21, turned it into an NHL deal that season, made his NHL debut this past year. So another guy that whose path is inspirational, but also attainable for guys who are willing to work hard enough to make it happen. Guys like Zach Hayes and Braden Pahal.
And it's definitely not over once the draft ends if your name did not get called.
We are at about 8.5 minutes left in the third period. Again, stick with us after the final buzzer for more fun stories. But no, because we're going to have a 5-man shootout just for fun. Connor Ford's wrist shot is stomped by Whitehead. He'll hang on for the whistle.
We have to hope this gets tied up, like you said, just for the integrity of the shootout.
It's 2-1 Team Red, thanks to the putback by Joey Larson. So I'll ask you, from what you've seen, who's jumped out to you, Ashley, who on Team White has the likelihood of scoring that tying goal if it's going to happen?
Gosh.
I like Daniel D'Amato. Cholach threw one towards the net that was steered to the corner by Whitehead. Moyle had knocked off his stick by D'Amato, but there to help and force it out to the neutral zone was Will Rydell. D'Amato will dump in, rims around to the far half wall. taking it off the boards and trying to force it to the middle was McAllister, but there was no pathway for him.
To answer your question, I think I'm going to go Ben Hemmerling.
You like Ben Hemmerling?
We haven't seen as much of him here. Haven't heard his name quite as much from you, but the only member of Team White from the 2022 NHL draft. A chance to shine. Why not?
Jackson Hallam laid it back to the left point, but there was nobody there.
He was described by many as a very good value pick. Vegas Golden Knights very happy that he was still around when they had the opportunity to pick him up.
Svetlikov is stopped by Carl Lindbaum, who has the puck in the glove, and will have a face-off in the Team White zone. For Hallam, we heard value pick, and for Hemmerling, we heard value pick for sure. And to remind everyone what that value is, yes, 6th round in the 2022 draft. After putting up 10 goals and 47 points for the Everett Silvertips of the Western Hockey League, there's another stop for Carl Lindbaum on a long shot from Lucas Cormier.
This has not been Hemmerling's first time in Vegas either. He talked about coming here as a kid for a youth hockey tournament. That they say to the Golden Nugget, he remembers the water slide going through the Shark Tank. That's the only thing he remembers about Vegas. Said the Red Rock Resort's a little different where they have him at now.
Don't worry, we'll get you a water slide, Ben. That's what I would remember most. Cormier's wrist shot missed the net. Skips to the far half wall, and Donovan trying to force it out. Tied up, couldn't do it. Held in at the line. Now here's Cormier's center point. Dishes it back to the left side. Working his way down from the point is Wiley. Swings it behind the net. 6.5 minutes left in regulation time. Remind everyone that if you're joining us for this scrimmage and you think, well, I would tune into the stream tomorrow, but they can't possibly have any more stories, I might as well go see it in person. You can do that, and you should.
You should.
With puck drop for scrimmage number 2 tomorrow morning at City National Arena at 10 a.m.
Free and open to the public.
And they will open the Arsenal at 9 a.m. So you can make sure you're properly dressed.
Yep, then you can go into McKenzie River, grab yourself some lunch after. It's a perfect setup here at City National Arena.
And then the Saturday scrimmage, that will be for season ticket members only, but we'll be here on the stream to bring you all the information. As we got to look at the Team White bench, there's Manny Viveros to the far left. Standing next to him is skills development coach Scott Jones. No question, this is a busy weekend for Scott Jones.
Yes. Important to share also, Manny Viveros was asked about his health yesterday and how he's doing, and he said he's feeling great. Treatment's still ongoing, but he said that was the plan, that was expected.
So impressive how he navigated last season dealing with that, but also
continuing to do this as well. My goodness, the strength.
And no question, it meant a lot to the players in that room, not just to see him go through that, but also that he came back again and again.
Tells you a lot about how much of a family this entire organization is as well. When things outside of hockey in your life aren't going well, everyone's here for you.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to be, no matter what's happening in your personal life.
Left wing side, Borash goes back to Cheka. It is a Team White power play. We're not sure who's in the box. Borash has a shot that was blocked. Corcoran takes it away. He'll whip it up the far wall and all the way down. Jacob Guavin goes back to get. He has the lone goal for Team White this afternoon. D'Amato gives out to center. Here's McAllister. Looking for D'Amato again, out of his reach. He stays after it below the goal line. Now out to the right point. Working down from the right point, Noah Ellis gave it to the side of the net. A save made by Whitehead. He's got it underneath the glove. Savvy work by Noah Ellis working down from the blue line to get it to the side of the net. Another faceoff coming in the red zone.
Whitehead, I almost said White Cloud. I might do that a few times. You were talking about his not white jersey. I might say White Cloud. I'll correct myself. Different position.
On your toes.
Not even close. Not even the same position. But Whitehead's had to face a lot, but he looks pretty calm and confident.
and we mentioned earlier in the show, this is a 4:40 left in this third period, how for young goaltenders, one of the real true wake-up calls, if you will, for development camp is goaltenders who are having a different quality of shooter than maybe Cameron Whitehead saw in Lincoln.
Definitely.
Here's a save by Whitehead on another wrister from the right circle. Different shooter, and also just the overwhelming attention that they're going to get from the goaltending staff. From Rosati, from Burke, from Fred Brathwaite.
Yes.
They're all here. And they've been waiting to get their hands on you, so you're going to get the workout of a lifetime. Through the neutral zone, this is Ryan McAllister, free agent out of Western Michigan University. Lost the puck, and Brisson comes the other way. Into the offensive zone, pulls up, looking for the trailer Sapovalev, but it was behind him, and now here's an odd man look the other way for Team White. Hallam on the left wing tried to center. That was knocked down by a sliding Fleming and came back to Jackson Hallam, who couldn't stuff it in. Brisson finds the loose puck. Feathers it up the right side. Sapovalev back for Brisson, and now on the right wing side into the offensive zone. Moyle, a little give and go with Brisson. Sapovalev instead, but that was broken up and sent out by Cholach. Now Team White on the attack on offense is Donovan in deep. 3 minutes left in regulation time. Cormier takes it back for Team Red, and now Brisson on the right wing. Room to mosey through center, gains the red line and backhands in. It's gloved down by Lindbaum. Cholach, a bit of an escape away from the forecheck pressure of Brabinets. Cholach again trying to get away from Brabinets and doing an okay job of it. Artur Cholach, another player that we mentioned. They have him listed at 6'1.5", and he looks a little taller than that, but he's a lanky frame.
No doubt. He's another guy. Will Nichols said game 3 of rookie camp last year, they almost sat him because he was struggling. Said, thank goodness we didn't, because since then, he's taken his game to a new level. Will said it's even been a teaching lesson for the coaching staff, the organization, not to pull the plug too quickly.
And so many players, as we see a backhander from Such that doesn't find the mark, that had their first impression last year in the rookie tournament and had real strong showings in that third game. That third game was really the settle-in game for a lot of the young VGK prospects. And that included Jesper Vikman, who we saw earlier in this game. He was under a barrage in that game and was spectacular, and he went on to have a really solid season in the Western Hockey League with Vancouver.
He talked yesterday about how important that season was for him because he was playing not the North American game before. There weren't as many games. So he said just learning how to bounce back after losses, play a full schedule, one similar to what you would play in the AHL or NHL, made a big difference for him.
We've heard a couple of development coaches for Jesper Vikman. Quote, he's everything you want. Can't get a better compliment than that. Whistle stops play, just over a minute left in the third period, after which we will have the shootout for fun.
Another word was used to describe Jesper. Do you remember what it was?
Stud?
Stud.
That's what I wrote down and underlined.
Stud. That's what yep. Bold, underline, highlight.
Well, hopefully Jesper Vikman's not tuned into the stream because we don't want to get too overconfident. Needless to say, despite the fact we said it.
Hey, we can
lots
pump
of compliments.
Their tires. Coaches might not be able to pump their tires. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Who else's tires can we pump? Daniel Chayka looks nice. He'll rim it around the boards, and the far corner getting to it is Ryan McAllister as we are in the final minute of the third period. Team White trailing 2-1, looking for the tying goal. Korzak gives for Chayka. Chayka's wrist shot blocked by Corcoran, skips to the far wall, and McAllister. McAllister under some pressure, gets some help as coming over was Connor Ford. Now it's wheeled high in the zone for Daniel D'Amato. D'Amato looking for room. Now on the left side, Chayka. Korzak, long shot, deflects wide. Ford is on it. We're told that Connor Ford had the best results in fitness testing during development camp. Kudos to him. D'Amato sends in front side of the net, Ford jamming at it.
I don't know what that
kept out by Whitehead.
I don't know what that fitness testing involves, but I don't think I would succeed.
And 2 seconds in one, that will do it. So a strong showing for Team Red on goals from Jacob Brabenitz and Joey Larson. They are 2-1 winners over Team White. Jacob Guavin, the lone tally for the White team. And now, just for a little extra fun, give the fans what they came for. We're going to have, now we've been told, a 5-man shootout. I don't know if that's best of 5 or if everyone's going to get 5 just for the sake of maximum reps, but well, we'll know it when we see it. Jesper Vikman and Isaiah Seville started the game for Team White and Team Red. Vikman for Red, Seville for White. Carl Lindbaum finished for Team White. Cameron Whitehead finished for Team Red. I imagine the two of them will probably stay between the pipes.
This is basically just an extension of what these goalies have faced the last few days and all the shooting drills.
There on the
They've
Team
been
Red
peppered
bench.
with shots left and right.
Team Red bench, the coaching staff. You see on the left was Jamie Heward, and on the right Joel Ward, the assistant coaches in Henderson, who did so much in the absence of Manny Viveros last season. So Ben Hemmerling starting things off, and the puck will not cooperate with him.
My pick did not go as planned, Brian. I'm sure he'd like another crack at that, but the good news is we got plenty of time left.
And Ben Hemmerling now knows that sometimes in July the ice is not going to cooperate after a full period.
Especially not in Vegas.
Jacob Brabenitz, 4th rounder in 2021, the lone goal, or one of 2 goal scorers for Team Red. Dangles on into the forehand, and he's stopped with the right pad by Lindbaum. So both teams 0 for 1. How about a hat tip to our camera crew, too? This is a...
They're doing incredible.
Jackson Hallam for Team White with speed down the middle, and a stop made by Whitehead. Jackson Hallam went with the full speed ahead approach. Team Red will respond. Here's Lucas Cormier. Cormier with 33 goals, 81 points this season. To the forehand, and he is stopped.
No.
That snuck through.
What a move.
Excuse me. That just snuck through Carl Lindbaum under the right pad. I apologize.
I don't think Lucas Cormier is going to approve of your call there.
I didn't
Brian.
believe in him enough, is that it? Daniel Chayka in response for Team White. And sounds like he caught a little bit of the outside of the post on the blocker side of Cameron Whitehead, but it does not cross. Good on Lucas Cormier. He fakes out Lindbaum and me. Brendan Brisson looking to add for the red team. Throws on the brakes, and that time Lindbaum able to keep the pad flush against the ice to get the stop.
You really made sure on that one.
Held up. I would benefit from some sort of a delay. 7-second delay would do me well. Now for Team White. Working in is McAllister, and he's stopped by Carl Lindbaum. No, excuse me, Cameron Whitehead. They keep switching on me. Ryan McAllister of Western Michigan University and the Brooks Bandits last year. He had 57 goals in 60 games for the Brooks Bandits last season. That's why he's here.
3 games without a goal. And here's the 55-goal scorer.
Patrick Gay. Lindbaum has the answer there. And we're going to keep on rolling along. Let's get a look at Erie Otters alum Daniel D'Amato. Swinging right with speed. Brian White, and he puts it up under the bar. Great patience from Daniel D'Amato as he outweighted Cameron Whitehead.
I can hear from the studio. I can hear the fans liking that one out there.
And like we said, this is fun for us, Ashley, but it's fun for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Ivan Morozov will give it a try for the red team. Quick release. Lindbaum quicker. You know, I wonder, Ashley, I don't know if you've been counting. Is that 5, or have we gone beyond 5?
I'm spoiled with the AT&T Sportsnet counters, Brian. The
I
shot
say
counters.
And that was our
The
I thought
power plays. That's it. We're done.
that was our 5th round. I was going to say, if that's not it, then we might just get to see everybody tonight.
I wouldn't have argued. I wouldn't have
Not
argued.
one bit.
But the good news is, once again, tomorrow, 10 a.m., join us at City National Arena. If not, tune in right here.
So much fun tonight, Ashley. And again, it's benefit for us that we get to do this 3 times too, because every game's going to look a little bit different, but a good showing on night 1.
In regulation, Team Red took it 2-1. We'll see who it is tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And remember that Saturday at 10:15 is exclusively for pre-registered season ticket members. Those members have already, I think, received their tickets. If those members have not received their tickets, they will be receiving them via AXS. So you'll be stuck with Brian and myself on your Saturday morning if you are not one of those people. But thank you very much to Martin Harris Construction for bringing us this first scrimmage. Brian, any takeaways before we head out?
A lot of fun. Players flexing their creative muscle a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if each scrimmage, if it changes or if it has the same temperament throughout. Because again, you can almost see that the players as they're talking to each other at center ice. Just they've done drills and chores all week, and now they get to have a little bit of fun, open things up a little bit. So
now it's time to have some fun.
This was great, and we'll see for the kids who were just drafted as they get more comfortable and settled in this week. What else they show us over the next couple days.
All right, Brian and I are going to head down to the media availability, see what everyone has to say about this first scrimmage, but we will see you right back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp.
Good night, everybody.